How are you
So,
doing, Annie? Thank you for so
uh,
much for joining today on
I'm
this very rainy. We need the rain, though. We do. Like, this is
my girl.
absolutely essential. Hold on, hold on. Can you hear me okay? I've all of a sudden, like, I feel like I've lost your audio, or am I
So
going, or maybe, hold on. Let me take my headphones off.
I can hear you great.
I can hear you very faintly, and I don't know if it's,
Okay,
I
my
don't know if it's,
nope.
here, try that.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
A little bit better, a little bit better. This is like riveting radio on my
I,
part. So thank you for
oh, it's
thank you
okay.
for
I
bearing
wonder,
with
should
me.
I go get my external mic? Would that help? It just plugs in, but I don't know.
Well, the thing is, like for the on-air segment, I can at least turn it up. For this one, it's kind of like just using the monitors, and I don't know. Like I feel like I think coming back and doing shows has taught me that one, I am getting old and my body has been like taking a pounding. Like I'm just like one of the things is just like, oh yeah, my hearing is like even playing acoustic music. Like I wouldn't say my hearing's shot. It's just not as what it once was. Like I've definitely like I kind of like you have that year in an incubation chamber and then you come back and you're like, oh. And just like certain things are just like not there anymore.
Well, I think
Um,
it also takes some time, like as I've been getting back into my shows too, like there's some remembering that has to happen around like other people and sharing music in that way because we all got so used to doing it here
yeah.
on this screen, you know. So I think that, and I think that that's kind of disconcerting. You know, it throws you for a little bit of a loop. So I feel you on that.
It's well like it's I think it's like part of like the natural process too. Like but like sorry I was typing in the metadata of all the songs and trying to make sure like all these things are like ending on time and all that. That's like the real fun of this, I think, is like juggling all that. But no, you're absolutely right. Is like it like giving yourself some time is essential because like I think once I started booking again, and I waited a while. I waited until like June. I feel like some people I had offers in May, and I don't know if like I just felt like that was too soon. And you know what? Like I have friends who rib me anyway. They're like June was too soon. This is too soon. What you're doing is too soon. I'm like that's fair, I guess. I
I
mean it
know.
is. It's absolutely fair. I mean like but like I don't know. I think that the places I have been playing, I feel like have been low risk areas. I like if you look at the county information,
Yep.
um, the stats have been good. So like yeah, there is that whole thing. I didn't want to get into like I feel like every show has just turned into like the pandemic show on KFAI.
But we all, you know, but I think there's something really important about holding space together around all of it because it was a thing. And so we're going to have to talk about it. So I don't think that that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think we need to talk about how it, you know, how it affected us and where we're at with all of it now. I started booking later too, and I'm not doing a whole lot of indoor shows, but I started booking for the fall, and I just still don't know. Like I have those dates on the calendar, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know. But
Yeah, it's weird because like I feel like okay, I said I wasn't going to talk about it. Now we're talking about it. Like it is ongoing. Like I feel like there like it's being talked about like it's a switch where it's just like can we can we talk about something else? And then there are some people who are like, it's not over. And like, and then I feel like there's a lot of people who like share those opinions, but they don't voice them. They're kind of just like, right, all right, yeah, cool, that's cool. Yeah, I don't really want to think about that right now. And I definitely think we're not talking about the process of like, okay, we are in like a reopening stage. And I feel like that takes an adjustment, right?
Yep.
Like going into like the act of just like finding a new rhythm again, whatever you're doing. And like that's like so like I think I've definitely noticed when I started booking shows, I, had one, and then I did like a festival, and then I did another one, and then it got to this point where I was just like, oh, and maybe this is just me in my brain of just like, oh, okay, let's just do it like old times, and it's just like, let's go back on the road every weekend, let's do it, let's go. And now I feel like I am hungover. I have like a travel hangover of just like that I still haven't recovered from. Because like immediately after those gigs, Winona and Rochester, you come home and then you also have to teach lessons.
Right.
That's part of the thing. Okay, so speaking part of the thing, we're actually going to do the thing that we're actually going to do. So we're going to be on the Zoom thing, and then we're going to be on the radio. So stand by. I'm going to bring you up here in about 5 seconds.
Okay.
The Lone Below here on KFAI. Before that, we had Imogen Heap, and at the top of the set, we had Sarah McLachlan. So if you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands, the show where I make mixtapes based on my guests' 10 records they would bring to a desert island. And this weekend, I'm talking with Annie Fitzgerald. How are you, Annie? Thank you for joining the show.
Hi, Doc. It's so good to see your face. I am well. I'm well. I'm glad to be here.
Cool. I'm glad we could make this work because I feel like sometimes this show definitely has some technology gremlins where it's just like, wait, are you working? Are you even on? Oh, you're on right now. Good. But so we were kind of just talking about performing again because, well, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show is because I feel like even now that like we're allowed to do in-person events, I'm still caught in this vortex where like you released a single and I try to play things on time, but I'm still in pandemic mode where it's just like, it's okay if we play that 3 weeks early or like 2 weeks later. And so I saw you have a show not just coming up this weekend with the performance on the Plaza, this Friday, but Sarah Morris and yourself, full band shows at Hook and Ladder, but that's next month. Yeah, when is that?
That's actually a week from this Thursday on August 5th. The Hook Under the Canopy, they do just a lovely job. And
Yeah, it looks great.
I haven't played with my band since late fall of 2019. And so
Wow.
I feel like it's going to be just a big old love fest. And I think there's going to be lots and lots of joy even when we play the sad songs. So
Yeah.
lots of people want to come and hang out with us that night too.
So what's that like? Have you been able to rehearse in any way? Like, did you record that single with the band virtually, or was that something you had already been working on?
I actually went in. I was working on a project called Me Too Minneapolis, and I was waiting to work with a producer for that particular track. And the pandemic had already started. We were already in lockdown mode, and we did a show going live with love for our friend Jessa Roque,
Yeah.
Gambler's daughter, who passed away recently. And I had played this single Under the Moon for that show for Jessa. And our mutual friend, Matt Patrick, had texted me after that and said, Annie, that song really touched me. And I said, it's interesting how the universe works. Like I said, I'm waiting for this other producer, but I want to record this. And would you be interested in working with me on both things? So we went into the studio. My friend Steve Bosmans and I played guitar. Matt did all of his magic around the rest of the production for the song. And I've been holding on to it for a while. So I'm just really glad that it's kind of out in the world now. now that I'm
It
able to.
sounds great. Well, like anything that comes out of the library, I feel like Matt Patrick, and he's one of those wizards in town that anything
Is
that crawls out of that studio is going to be sounding good.
wizard is like the perfect word, Duck. Wizard.
Um, so thank you so much for coming on the show. We are going to hear some of your music coming up, but we also have the Desert Island playlist, and I am guilty of talking too much. So if we don't get to all of it, there will be a Spotify playlist you can follow, download, share. I keep them all up there just for fun. So if you're curious about artists past, or I do talk too much and we don't get to the entire mixtape, that will be available. I will post it under the comments of this video on our Facebook page. Anyway, here's some Casey Musgraves here on KFAI. This is Desert Islands. Today I'm making a mixtape for Andy Fitzgerald. Can you still hear me?
I can.
Perfect. I'm probably going to ask you that a lot.
What? Oh no, it's fine.
Just because.
Yeah.
I'm going to move this mic out of the way. It's kind of weird because like this software, you get like the thing and like you're setting up the shot, and then when you go live, the shot changes. So like what was like totally not in the shot, the microphone is all of a sudden like all right, okay, I'll go press the button, make sure. Okay. All right, hold on. So I'm kind of battling that right now. But also I feel like I used to ignore that for the most part on this show and just be like, oh yeah, we're just kind of we're kind of having fun. And it's like the whole point of the video is you can watch it later. So I'm working on it. Hey, thanks. Luckily I have caffeine.
So do I. Cheers.
Perfect. I've been okay. So you have been. I was thinking about the live stream series we did. Just like not to like completely switch gears, but kind of circle back on playing live, but like also the transition between that, because I feel like certain people are kind of doing that live stream event. But I remember when y'all invited me to do the Valkyries thing, I was so stoked on it that I was just like, oh, it's a shame like we're not going to be able to do something like this again. And that was like, I feel like that was more than a year ago at this point.
It was May 1st of last year, and we actually, the Valkyrie Music Collective, we just had our first in-person showcase event at the Ice House I think it was like a week ago, and it was wonderful. But we are talking about how number one, we live in Minnesota, right? So there's really cold winters, and lots of people when it's freezing cold don't want to leave their house. We have big ideas about doing an in-person festival, maybe 2022, but I think we're going to do another online situation, just because the technology's there. Everybody's used to using it now a little bit more than they were, and it, I don't know, it brings in a different audience. People that don't, maybe they have kids at home and they can't get out to a show, but they can something up and airstream it or whatever it is to their TV and enjoy. So the way that whole thing came together, the festival, we were looking at spaces, we had all these big plans, and then the pandemic happened. And the way we kind of were able to shift gears, and the sponsors from the community that came along, and the artists like you, who were a part of it, it was kind of dreamy. I thought
it came together so well too. And I think I was definitely in one of those. I feel like we all were in a funk. Like I don't want to claim claim ownership of the funk. Like I feel like we all were in a funk. But like at the time, I was kind of like really apprehensive about live streaming, because like now I see that it is actually a really good complement to performances. And where before I was just like, wait, like is this what we're just gonna do now? Because like I don't know if I want to like just do this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, or like just like I also feel like whenever I feel like I'm bothering somebody, then I'm just like, okay. It's like that's when I'm just like, okay, so am I expecting my audience to show up for these live things? I like that they're archived, but like that's also a weird ask as
Yeah.
well. So for someone who is just like, oh yeah, like I like the live element of the show, I like doing something different every single time, but also the pressure of like, oh well, now that it's just out there forever, like
That's a huge thing. And that's a huge thing. I tend to have like perfectionist tendencies that I like to like try to not have, but that's a hard thing for me too. And then there's also the aspect of like, I think that we are musicians because we want to connect with people, right? And so like the
yes.
energy exchange for me anyway is huge. And I started doing some live streaming and I was like, I feel just like I felt when I was a singer-songwriter and first moved to New York City and nobody came to my shows and I was playing to like zero, like the bartender or whatever at the Rockwood.
It felt like going back
I
to
felt,
like your worst
yeah,
open mic ever, and
yeah,
it's just like, is
yeah,
this even working?
yeah.
Am I? Why am I doing? I'm dying up here.
Right, right, right. Exactly. That's how it felt. But then I tried to like, even with the whole pandemic, I tried to find the gifts in things, especially when I'm feeling like down or frustrated or whatever. But I think in a way, like there was some shifts that happened when you were supposed to try to figure out how to play for that. And I think the music became more about, um, like there was more of a connection for myself in the music because I wasn't relying on that in a way, like brought some depth to it for me. And also now, I don't know if you feel this way, but there are so many things that have just gone out the window, like some anxieties that I used to have about promoting shows and playing the shows and stuff, that now I'm just like, I don't care anymore. I mean, I care. I care, but the care is different. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah. Well, I feel like I've been trying to focus like what are my intentions, and I
yes,
feel like I used to be really apprehensive about promoting because I'm just like, oh, there's so many other things. Like, I don't want to be another one of those people. Like, hey, have you heard of me? Hey, let's
I,
talk about me. And so like
right.
it just feels really weird, and I always worried that it would cheapen the music a little bit, especially since I have a tendency to use a lot of metaphor, but also be like really sincere. So sometimes like that overly schmaltzy persona of just like, hey, come to the show, do the da 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 da. Like I feel like that like it's hard to take vulnerable moments more seriously. But now I'm looking at it like, okay, there's that is the intention. We spent so much time in isolation where it's just like, hey, you should come out to this thing. Because why not? Like that's why
Because
we're doing the thing, and it's totally okay to talk about the thing. I think a lot of us, well, hopefully a lot of us learn lessons about like what exactly is it, equitable amongst the playing field, like not punching down, but also like not taking up all the air in the room.
yeah,
Like it's like I feel like that's a balance for all of us too, you know, like and I think we're all learning about that. But I promotion, I feel like there has been like at least a way where it's just like, well, this kind of works. I don't know if it works, but like I feel like it works for me.
that's
I
what you have
don't
to
know.
do. Yeah.
Like I don't know if any of it works. I feel like it just has to come naturally. And I'm sure if I worked with a manager, they would disagree with everything I was doing and be like,
Right,
you gotta be doing this. You gotta be like,
right.
yeah, I'm doing stuff though. I don't know. I don't think I would be fun to work with.
I
I
actually totally disagree with that
hmm.
statement. I feel you like 100% on all of the things that you just said about like the sincerity aspect and wanting to be, come across in an authentic way, and
Yeah.
how that's hard to do. But I do agree too, like now it's like, hey, let's be together because we we couldn't be for
Right.
so long.
Right.
there's a level of like, I don't know, that's a little gift that came out of it that makes promotion a little less daunting.
Yeah, I definitely think it's it's been it's been kind of surreal playing shows again because like I constantly have that thing where like, oh my God, like this is such a gift that we should not take for granted. And then like when you're doing your like fifth one in 2 weeks, you're like automatically going like, all right, what's the next? And it's like it's so weird like going back into those gears, and I don't think it's like taking for granted as much as like, oh right, this is actual work.
Yeah.
Like I think if we're gonna be doing this, we should really shift uh our perspective on how and why it's done, because there's definitely been like a few of those moments where it's just like, oh no, like we're not really doing it that way. I'm just like, wait, payment? Because I feel like we like exposure gigs are done after this. I mean, like
Oh,
exposure to what? COVID? Like, like
right.
what do you
I've
like?
had
And it sounds so disingenuous when you're just like, oh, I think we should have less venues when like after what we just went through and so many things closed down. But like there has been a lot of things where it's just like the music is the second thought, and it's just like, look, everyone spends so much time and money to do this, why not actually do it with the intention? And then like there are talks about like, okay, well, like let's make sure there's a stage for everybody, otherwise what kind of music scene do we really have if not everyone can participate? But let's make sure the stage is like a stage first, otherwise like it's not even worth anyone's time. Okay, speaking of that, underwriting, and then we'll be back on the air. So we just heard Lowland Hum off of Glyphonic. That song is called Salzburg Summer. And in the middle, Hush Kids, we also heard Casey Musgraves at the top of that set. And if you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands, the show where I make mixtapes based off of my guests, 10 records they would bring to a desert island. And I don't know what happened to the mouse on the computer. I was gonna play our underwriting cart, and it doesn't like me. So now we are here. Okay, so we were talking about like now that we're playing shows, because you're playing a show at the Hook and Ladder August 5th. You're also playing a show at the Performance on the Plaza. That's 50th in France this Friday. And just like kind of talking about like equity of just like now that like we've gone through a pandemic that pretty much shuttered the stages for, I don't know, 500 days for some people. And some people came in a little bit earlier, some people came in a little bit later. Okay, what did we learn? How can we do this better? And what are we really doing it for? And so coming back and doing, because you've been doing live streaming, you've been doing some gigging here and there, and now you're getting into full band gigging. You're also involved with the Valkyrie Music Collective, which has similar aims in going like, hey, this is great. Y'all are great. And since y'all are great, is there a way we can make this even better for people? And so like from your perspective, like what do you think you learned as a performer, and from your time as seeing it from the offstage lens of just like, okay, how would I make this better for performers? When you mix those two angles together, what do you think this pandemic and off time taught you about like what you would want to do better, but also want to see on the stage in the future?
That is such a good question, Doc. I think I'm still think we're still kind of processing all of that. But one of the things for me as a performer, and you had mentioned it earlier, you know, I started in this industry where I was able to go on tour and sell CDs and make a living.
Right.
That's
Right.
because I'm getting older. Um,
Yes.
and that, isn't a thing anymore. We can't as artists sell, I mean, because streaming income is nothing. And
Yeah.
so it's basically, our income is, how many shows we play and how well we
Right.
get paid at these shows. And I think you mentioned something about the stages and um, having places where people, our friend Jim Walsh is amazing around that.
Yes.
And he
Yes.
has the hoot. He's always like, people listen, because that's why we're playing.
Yeah.
And so I think that, one of the things that we're doing with the Valkyrie Music Collective is, we just had a show at the Ice House and we wanted to make sure that each artist got paid for their time, paid well for their time. And I think for me as an artist, I'm not going to take a gig that doesn't feel like there's an energy exchange where I am valued for my time and for my experience and all of the things. So I think that's one thing. I'm being pickier around like what shows that I want to take in and what stages as a member of the Valkyrie Music Collective, what stages we want to put artists on to kind of showcase their talents. And I think that's a really a big thing. And I love being on the other side of things and helping to, there were a few artists that hadn't played the Ice House at this show that we had, and they were
Yeah.
all, each of them were just so incredible. And so many people said, it was such a diverse lineup, and there were so many, artists that they never would have heard before. So we want to do more of that. We want to kind of give opportunities for people. I think that our music scene in Minneapolis is beautiful, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that are really helpful and wonderful. But the bookers at all of the venues aren't going to be able to hear of everyone just because that's just not humanly possible. So I think one of our goals in the coming months is to kind of help that along, maybe
Right.
to both
And we
to
lost.
people that are booking.
Yeah. 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 We lost so much infrastructure on. I feel like how. And maybe this says about how we got into the mess that we're in. But like a lot of how those people heard of artists was through places like the city pages. And
Yep.
unfortunately, like it's like it just kind of is a nature of the beast of like you take that away and it kind of becomes word of mouth again, which is fine if there are places you can gather where word can build. And I feel like this whole thing is kind of learning how to walk again, and it's stumbling and fumbling certain things, but also making great strides at a lot of stuff. So we've mentioned your gigs this Friday and August 5th at the Hook and Ladder. Is there something the Valkyrie Music Collective has its sights on this year? Do you have any events coming up that we're ready to talk about?
We don't necessarily have any dates on the calendar. I think that we're talking about a festival,
Ooh,
2020.
okay.
Hopefully in person, and then maybe another online event in the wintertime. But we want to do something again. We're talking with the Ice House about putting together another showcase event of sorts, and we're hoping to do that possibly quarterly. We're really in the beginning stages of trying to figure out
Right.
what's manageable because all of us, we put together the collective just kind of out of love to, you know, want to lift other artists up, and we all have families and full-time jobs and all the other
Yeah.
stuff, so we're just trying to figure out how we can do it so that we can work together and make it as successful as possible. So that's TBD, but probably in the next few months we'll have something happening.
Well, keep your eyes peeled this fall and this winter for that. Also, this Friday and next month at the Hook in Ladder. If you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands, the show where I make mixtapes for my guests based on the 10 records they bring to a desert island. Today, I'm speaking with Annie Fitzgerald, who is performing as a singer-songwriter and as an organizing promotion aspect with the Valkyrie Music Collective. So we're going to have more music from that Desert Island picks list coming up, so stick around. Okay, I figured out the underwriting, but I accidentally was too heavy-handed with the play button.
Oh.
Okay, well, we will reload those later.
All good, Doc. It's all good. I'm trying to figure out how I can share. Ellen's on it already because Ellen's Ellen. And I love her dearly. There it is. Okay. Yay.
What I'm just typing in. Okay, so that's working. Ooh. Hi, Alan. Sorry, I'm in ADD mode. I'm like typing in. Ooh. Yeah, so like normally I feel like I'm a bit more caffeinated, but like right now I'm just like in this position where like, yeah, not so much. Like I think I did. When I got vaccinated, I made a trip to see family, which was great. But I also like just started booking shows like crazy, but it was weird because like all these shows I've been booking were all like outdoor shows, and then like as things changed, they're like, yeah, let's move them indoors, because they would be like these events where it's like either inclement weather, like these things would be like out on the patio or whatever, or like a civic engagement event in a different city where it's just like, hey, you know, like we're gonna walk around the streets of our city and we have someone here and here and here. Some of those got moved in, but like some of them straight up, like the heat wave was just like, we've been doing well, and it's just like, let's just move the side stage indoors. I've already played a few of those where I'm just like, especially being an out of town act, like when you roll up to certain things where it's just like, yeah, I mean, like, what are you gonna do? The stage is already and so like there has been like a mix of that, but like also like the volume. Last weekend was like the first time I was like back to like, okay, so there's like an in studio here, and then like something Monday, and then you're gonna go out on the road for like days straight, and then come back and then teach lessons, and then like, so like that was like last week, and I feel like I am fried. Like I am definitely like feeling my age a little bit, where I'm just like, oh yeah, like you don't exactly eat the same when you're in that situation, and
do not.
And it's like, yeah. So I don't know. It just, I'm definitely feeling the mental exhaustion of that. So like when the like little things go wrong, and that's the thing about like anything, like any show or just radio, like something goes wrong every show.
Of
like
course.
it just like,
yeah.
I feel like coming back, I'm just so happy that there's a gig that when something goes wrong, I'm just like, yeah, sure, that's happening. Totally. Like this will be, yeah, okay, this is today. This is.
I think there's also just like that happens in all the things with just being busy again. people and like doing things where Sarah Morris and I were just talking about how like the next week feels so full and I just don't. I'm like, am I gonna be able to do this? Like, am I gonna remember? Is my body gonna remember? No, I don't know. Excited for you. Big time. Reentry. We're all in reentry mode. We are. I really think so.
It's like the I definitely think part of that is me being out of shape and not taking care of myself, but also part of that is like, no, this is work, and like I just feel like the culture around because I get like the whole infrastructure would have to change, and I'm like, yeah, it should have a long time ago. But for like the places where it's just like, well, we don't really have the money to like do that, we're like, okay, well, you shouldn't really be doing it in the first place. But I feel that I don't want to put up barriers in those situations where like you have the venues that are just like, look, we've never charged a cover at PD's boot salon or whatever, like I'm just making things up. Like I didn't want to do the John Mulaney thing and just like name a real venue I have a gripe with just because like we're actually like on something where it's just like, so you don't like us, huh? I'm like, no, okay. So yeah, PD's boot salon it is. Like for those places where it's just like, oh, we've never charged a cover here and like we've always done this, we're like, okay, then can you do something to make it easier for people to tip the artists? Like, can you put like those QR codes are on every menu? Just put that at the bottom of just like, oh yeah, by the way, like if you can send a tip through here, or like just at like the way you tip your servers on the things, like if you have a bar tab that you've been going to the bartender, it's just like you can have it like just $5 for the band, like it just like this is it. I don't think that is actually that hard. I don't think you need to like I don't think you need to go out of business to do stuff like that. Like I just think you can have like simple things where it's like you are thinking about the other person. And I think it really just revealed how little our time is valued as like just human beings, first of all, but like artists in general. It's like it's this weird game that like it's like set up for the winners, and if you're on the other side of that line, it's like something about you is invalid. So we have a whole pile of products we can sell you to like like teach yourself to be one of the winners. Like there is no infrastructure for people who come on the wrong side of that line other than you're wrong, so do it our way. Like when most of it is just like coincidence and luck. And I feel like all the people who get coincidentally lucky also work hard and are really good at it. I'm talking about the artists who like they go their whole careers and their stuff is like perfectly good and perfectly valid and should be paid for. There's just like a weird thing, like it slips through the sieve because like most of these things, it comes down to one person looking at all of it for this entire like tri-state area, and like that's true for a lot of booking things. And it's like it's just like, so what do we do about this? Because like clearly this is not just like, there's a lot of logistics, there's a lot of legwork that goes into putting on one of these shows. So like let's talk about ways to actually, like if it means raising cover prices, is that something we want to do? Does it mean putting shows earlier so different audiences can come? Does it mean like making tipping easier to do? I think I don't think this would work for all venues, but I think like some of them could just do a little bit and it would go a long way.
I agree completely. The Ice House is doing the QR code thing for the tipping, which worked beautifully the other night, and made it so easy. Everyone's used to those QR codes.
Yeah, it's not people's favorite thing, but they get it.
Yeah, and I've been talking with friends, other musician friends and the Valkyrie friends about like artists don't want to start playing shows at 10 o'clock at night either. You know what I mean? Like we all would appreciate having a 7 o'clock set time, or especially if there's dinner at the venue. You know that's
Yeah.
a lovely thing. And I also have found that people have been in certain situations very generous in their tipping because people have realized that they missed it too. So I think that, you know, having those spaces that, you know, kind of hold that sort of energy, I think is, you know, those are the places we want to play at.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm glad, and I'm not sure if we mentioned Evelyn's name on the air or just like the online part of it, but I'm glad you brought it up because like we were talking about like how, okay, I think we learned after the last election, clearly shame doesn't work. So like how there's got to be a way to encourage venues into doing this. And it's just like, it's like, I think one of the things that does work is shouting out the places that like do a good job of that. And like, so if like you are an artist where it's like you go to a place where it's just like, oh yeah, they did this thing, it was great. Like encourage more people to play there, encourage more people to go there. Because like then that's how things change, is like when other people see that like that actually creates the atmosphere you want, people start kind of going to that more than being yelled at into it. Because like it's that's another thing about America. Like it's like I've had so many conversations with people of just like, oh, if people knew the truth, we would just tell everybody and everyone would change their minds. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. And the worst part about it is there's plenty of people in power who know exactly how it works. They know they don't care. They like it that way. So like it's just like you kind of have to just find a way to like play your game without hurting anybody, because like it's there is a game afoot. And like it's just it's like you just kind of have to appeal to people's I don't know what sensibilities, but like I feel like just trying to catch more flies with honey, you know, it's I don't know if you just say incentivize like, hey, people make more money by doing this. But like I do think something needs to be done, because I think right now we're riding a wave of goodwill, which is fantastic.
Right, but how long is that going to last?
Thank you. How long is that going to last? And I don't want to be cynical, but you know, like I just think it's natural that like in a few months people are going to get to a point where like instead of like, hey, let's go see what's going on, people are like, I don't know, I've had a lot. And it's not because that there's something inherently like devoid of value into what we do. It's just like it's a lot of people need a break. Like when you listen to music, doesn't matter, like that's a lot of sonic information. Sometimes people are like, let's go on a, I don't know, why don't we just sit by a lake for, you know, like that's another thing I wish the industry would take account for. Like this infinite growth idea of just like, oh, we constantly need to be bettering our numbers. This is like, what if the numbers are never going to be the same, and we just need to come to grips with that?
But they just aren't. Like
it's never going to be like, because first of all, you're not going to make much money in this business to begin with, and even the people making money off of this business like make more of their money off of like like even the megastars. Like look at Post Malone. That dude makes way more money off of Bud Light and Doritos.
I was just gonna say it's ads. It's all ads.
Yeah, and it's not that his music doesn't sell, and it's not that he's not a talented cat. Like I have a lot of students who want to learn Post Malone songs, and I teach them, and they're actually pretty cool songs. It's just like, oh, he's doing, you know, like he's doing some, like I'm not knocking the dude's craft, but if one of the most recognizable names in the business right now still needs that Dorito money, like, what does that say about us? What does that say about the rest of us?
Right. I mean, we could, I mean, Spotify, let's just talk about that for a second. Like, I don't know. It's the streaming thing. It's the streaming situation that, I don't know how we're ever going to be able to necessarily recover from that. I think that as artists, it's wonderful. I have a Patreon. My friend Sarah Morris has a Patreon.
I do too. I like it there.
Yeah, and I feel like that is a lovely space where people who really want to support you and your art and your growth as an artist, because we're all still growing all the time. That's a space where we can feel supported and feel lifted up in that way. But we're having to get creative in so many ways, and also, I don't know. For me now, I'm a mom and my kiddo's turning 9 next week, and I have to be around for him, so I can't go on the road like I used to be able to, and that's where I would make the majority of my income, and even then it's hard. So I think there's also something to be said about how we all do this because we just love it, and it would be like cutting off my limbs, if I stopped, and I'm sure it would be for you too, and for all of our friends that do this out of love. So but there are conversations that can be had around how to make it more equitable for artists, and for us to feel valued, because we don't feel valued in streaming spaces. We just don't, because you get your royalty checks and you're like, oh, I made $8 this month, and there were how many streams.
And here's the thing, like, making $8 is actually kind of like extraordinary in that.
It kind of is. It is extraordinary.
Like, I don't know. You will always do better just going to Bandcamp and purchasing something. But even they have like raised their royalty rate. Like, there's no perfect system. And it's unfortunate. I like Patreon. I mean, like, this is gonna end up on my Patreon just because I not because I think I want to charge people for content, but as much as just like, it's a nifty place to host all of it.
It is, and sometimes people who are your patrons don't see it on social media, because social media, the algorithm on social media aren't our friend either. So, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So that the people who love you and want to support you see what you're doing, because you're doing awesome things, Doc.
Yeah.
This show is cool.
Well, and you are too. That's why I wanted to have you on the show, is because like I think like I wanted to talk to people that I feel like are trying to do something that is interesting, but also I wanted to have a show that wasn't in because the thing right now, in the absence I've noticed of like a lot of other media that this city used to have, is like there's a certain voice. If you don't fit into that voice, you don't get talked about. So you have to fit into a certain voice, into a certain narrative. Otherwise, you don't really get that type of time with those type of networks. And I've also done enough crappy morning radio. Not that morning radio is crappy. Like, I think radio is actually one of the few places where you can do something like interesting, because like it's just big enough that like someone is going to notice, but it's kind of been pushed to the fringes where like the people who listen to radio religiously like just really like the medium, and there's some really cool people doing something interesting with the medium, and KFAI is one of those places. But yes. I wanted to have a show where it was more like an artist would have the freedom to kind of like gripe about this, if that makes sense, but not in a way, like in like the I don't know. Like I don't like want this to be a forum where people like come on the show and be like, you know what grinds my gears, and then just like name drop
Right.
a bunch of people, and then and then it becomes like a fight, and then I'm like the one in the middle, like, oh, okay, 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 oh, okay, okay. Like I don't want that. But I do want this to be a place where it's just like, okay, we can talk about this subject without some fear of like repercussion of just like, oh, well, I guess that person's just never gonna book me again because like I, hate old timey bikes and I made a bunch of old timey bike jokes and like that was that guy's thing and like
I think you're speaking about all of it in a constructive way, and I think that that's important and necessary in order for there to any change to happen. We need this. We need to speak it out loud. So I think that's a beautiful thing. Thank you for holding the space
and
for it.
I hope, because I know there are people doing stuff like this, Diane Miller, for one, like she's come on the show and I know she's constantly looking for ways of just like, well, I participate in this musical ecosystem as a performer and as someone who curates, and like I really got the sense that she takes that responsibility very seriously,
Yes, I believe.
because I take it very seriously. Like I know, like I joke around a lot, but that doesn't, like I'm really serious. Like I'm like very like goody rule follower about like these things, because like I don't know, I see a lot of good in that, and I do think there are people in town that are looking to go like, well, how do we do this better? So it's like it's on one hand, I do think stuff is happening, but I think when something so gigantically catastrophic like this happens, um and like and like I'm glad you brought up the Me Too project, just because like that was I feel like a monumental step forward. And even then, like I've heard like some of the younger artists be like, well, like but like where's the next step? It's like, what's like we are driving an aircraft carrier right now,
Yeah.
and like it was so much work just to get a story, in like a paper, just one. Just one of the papers. It's like, on one hand, yes, I am frustrated because like I am part of the I have one foot in the part that can kind of like push the narrative. So I think I should talk about it, but I also have worked for publications like that, and I understand not all of it is like this nefarious thing from like the ivory tower. I will say, I have, after experiencing it, some of it is, let's be real, some of it
Yeah.
is, um,
Yep.
but not all of it is, and some things are trying, but the reason there is that red tape is to make sure it isn't nefarious all the time. Like it isn't some sort of shameless power grab. And these are very serious things that need to be taken seriously, which is why they take so long to happen. So when something does happen, like it should be kind of celebrated. Um, but I do think that was a major step because, one, it showed like how many artists were on the same page, but like a change is starting to come. So I think stuff is happening, but the pandemic kind of shined a light, the uprising kind of shined a light, the Me Too reckoning shined a light on all the things that we are, unfortunately, I don't want to say a little late on, but like, how else do you describe it? Like, there's just like a lot of stuff where it's just like, well, I'm glad someone did something about it, and like everyone's just like, okay,
Yeah.
like let's actually like we've known about this for so long.
But I think the
So
fact that
what's
we,
the holdup? And I
yeah,
little things are being done, but like it's discouraging. I feel like a character in The Wire where I'm just like, did I change anything? Did anything happen? What was the point? Like, can this be this? Oh man, this is like these are like ancient gods older than me that are just like I wow, like it's like humbling because it's so overwhelming that
Yeah.
like, oh my god, there's so much that is out of whack with how the system is run, and it goes all the way to the top. Like, it's not just like our local scene. Like, we were just talking about, like, take a look at Spotify. Like, the fact that that guy is just like, no, I'm not going to charge a penny per stream because you are lazy and entitled. I was like, says the dude who's never written a song.
Exactly.
You know, like, it's just like, so it's those things all the way down. Like, it starts at the top, and like it's not that like people don't care. I think this city especially needs time to heal. That is crucial, and I don't think we have. I
No, I
don't
don't
think
think
we
so.
have yet. I think we are trying, and part of the process is going out there as a community and like throwing these events and figuring it out. But it's at this point, my idea is to just hopefully not get in the way, and at least try my best to put my money where my mouth is, where it's just like, oh, I talk a big game about like, oh, I'm not gonna book this, and I'm not gonna book this, and I'm gonna book this. It's just like, okay, Sparky, well, why don't you go out and book that then? So I try my best to like do that and like not like pull any punches, but also like understanding that like I am a really small time cog in this machine, you know, like when you realize, like when you're working with like the big powers that be that are like just kind of like throwing money off of Mount Olympus, like here's here's money for your event, like trying to change the culture around that has been like very discouraging, because you're just like, are you kidding me? It's still like this. Yes, it is. And I don't know what to do about it other than like, I don't know. You kind of have to like carve your own path, but like not burn bridges, if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. I feel like I feel all of that in big ways. One of the reasons why we started the collective was just to try to do something, you know, as long as we're all just trying to do something, and, you know, start conversations, because we're having conversations, then we can all start talking and we can all start figuring out how we can come together and help, because that's part of community. And I do feel like, you know, our community has not healed yet, and we have a lot of healing to do. You know, that's the first step. It's coming together.
It's a huge step, and it's not a linear step, and I think that's the problem. Yeah. So after Sarah Morris is done here, we're going to be back on the air, and I'm going to read a calendar first, so stand by. Okay, so we had Sarah Morris, new Sarah Morris with Thomas Nordland there, some John Mayer, new John Mayer. I actually like Sobrock a lot. Like,
I do. I like it so much. It's crazy. I love it.
It's a good record. And Andrew Bird at the top of that set. Cowboy Junkies, Lucius, Robert Plant, and Allison Krauss. Wanted to get back on the air a little bit sooner, but I was talking too much, but also enjoying the conversation. So let's get back to the music conversation. Here are some things you can enjoy this weekend and beyond. First things first, tonight, National Park Service with Karate Chop Silence. These are two of my favorite band names in the game right now, and they're good kids. Go see their music. They're playing tonight at the 7th Street Entry. Thursday, Rock on the Lager Patio Party with Mother Banjo at the Free House. This is an early show. This is a happy hour show. and it's going to a good cause. Also on Thursday, Christian Wheeler, Smelkin Ernesto, Butter Boys at Part Wolf. Turn, Turn, Turn with Annie and the Bang Bang. That is downtown Thursdays between 9th and 10th on Nicollet in Minneapolis. We also have the Colin Bracewell EP release show with Gowns and Dury at the Entry Friday. Bad Bad Hats are in the Entry. Run Westy Run with Lunch Duchesses at the Turf Club. And also Friday, Palm Fest, and that goes this entire weekend. But this Friday, performance on the Plaza at France and 50th. Annie Fitzgerald. So who's playing with you, Annie, on this one?
Robert Wilkinson is playing.
Nice.
Yeah, I play at 4, and I believe Robert plays at 5 or 5:30. And then Katie Vernon, who's amazing, is curating.
Yeah.
She's a singer-songwriter. Also curating this series, and she's bringing in students to come and play in between sets. And I mean, we
So
just
cool.
all this stuff we're talking about with exposure and new people. It's just lovely. So I'm excited to be a part of that.
Yes, and I think Katie's doing an amazing job curating this. They've been trying to get the word out every week. It's a great lineup, and it goes until August. When is the last one? It goes into August, yeah.
I think through August, yeah. Thank you for
Yeah,
helping.
Absolutely. Speaking of August, that is your next show. Let me finish the calendar here. Saturday, we talked to Vile 2 weeks ago. This is their release show for their Get Better debut. Loudmouth is going to be on Get Better Records. Also, Gully Boys are on Get Better Records right now. They're also on this bill with Dad Bod and Bugsy at the Fine Line this Saturday. David Huckfeld is going to continue his residency. We talked to him the first week of the month, and this is going to be the last gig of his Ice House residency for Room Enough, Time Enough. Also this Saturday, Night Jobs, Big Salt, and Edward the Confessor at Part Wolf. My next gig is Crow Union this Saturday. Features Galactic Cowboy Orchestra, Frog Leg, and myself. But that is a private event. Tickets are on sale. You can get that on the website, but go there. That's all I'm going to say about that. Sunday, Dakota Day Paul is going to continue live streaming. He's going only to 2 days. So Sunday at 10 a.m., 3 songs. Built the Last Fest at the Hook and Ladders also on Sunday. Looking ahead, Javier Trejo every Tuesday, and then only every Monday. These are live streamed and events you can attend in person. Think I missed something, or you just want to hear me mispronounce your band name on the air, email it to Desert Islands KFAI at gmail.com. That's Desert Islands KFAI at gmail.com. So I was torn on what single I was going to play, because I already played Under the Moon, and I wanted to play something else, but it was from a much older record, and this single actually just came out, so I do want to play Under the Moon. But while I have you here, it is the top of the hour here at Desert Island, so if you're just tuning in, this is the show where I make mixtapes based on my guests' 10 records they bring to a desert island, and today I'm making one for Annie Fitzgerald. I think we only have to play 2 more cuts on that list. So I wanted to play some music by you. We just heard from Sarah Morris, and we're also going to hear new music from Preston Gunderson and Keep for Cheap in this set. But while I have you here, are you working on any new music? And I don't want to give away trade secrets. You don't have to reveal any deadlines, but this single came out. It sounds great. Is it part of something more to come? Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but
I do have some songs that I am working on doing some demos, and I'm going to send them to my producer friend Matt Patrick, and hopefully get into the studio within the next, when it works. But I believe Under the Moon will be on a larger project coming up. So
perfect. So you're playing this Friday. You're also playing August 5th with Sarah Morris, who we just heard. Is there anything? What are you looking forward to as far as music in 2021? Looking beyond those shows.
I think I do have some other shows that are coming up. I'm starting. I think we chatted a little
Yeah.
bit about booking some things at the Astor, and that I've got something coming up in September with Leslie Rich, in October with Matt French, and then
Nice.
Jillian Ray and Vicki Emerson and Sarah Morris and I started a series called "Thank You for Being a Friend" that we started doing
Yeah.
online, that we are going to be doing once a month at the Astor from from January through May, and bringing on different friends for rounds and things. So I'm looking forward to that, and then getting into the studio, recording some new things. I'm going to do a couple of new tunes with the band at the Hook on August 5th. So I'm excited to see what
Ooh,
happens with that.
perfect.
Yeah.
Well, if you like what you hear, hopefully you can hear it again, and hopefully this song will be a part of it. Here is Under the Moon by Andy Fitzgerald here on KFAI. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
How about now?
I can.
Okay,
Still.
cool. I always have one of the mics on. I'm just like, wait, which one is it? Which one are you? Okay, I'm gonna type your name, hopefully correctly, so you get credit for for the stream. Well, it's crazy. Okay, so here's like the crazy thing about the Spotify thing.
Yeah.
Radio, you get like 9 cents for a stream, and I get that there's an aspect of like, well, there are people that like can just be their own radio station and like just stream people whenever they want. But I mean, like, essentially that's what we're doing right now.
Right.
I just, okay, so if radio is 9 cents, why isn't Spotify one?
Right. I don't
That is something like, I get that there is a mechanism where it's just like, okay, no, like, don't get me wrong, like, I understand that people have to pay the bills, but this is where I feel like this turns into like US healthcare,
Yeah.
where it's just like, okay, yeah, I get it, this costs people money, but like, other people have figured out how to do this, like, there's a way to do it that like you're not, like, I get that people need to make money, but they're like, this is a kind of absurd,
Yeah.
like, this is like
Oh,
like, and but like anytime you bring it up,
it's okay.
it's just like,
That's how.
oh, the radical agenda of just like, oh, of 1 cent. I feel like I'm the scab by saying, like, like, because there are people which are like, well, why isn't it the royalty rate for the radio? Like, why isn't that more to adjust for inflation? And like, why isn't Spotify 5 cents? Like, all
Well,
I'm
I feel
saying
like
is like
that would
1 cent.
right. That would be putting like, I don't know. I feel like Spotify just comes down to like somebody being really greedy. And
Yeah.
I understand that people always say, well, it's wonderful that people have instant access to stream your music, and maybe things are getting listened to more because they are more accessible, but that's a really high price to pay for
Yeah.
accessibility. It feels like Spotify feels like the exposure gig,
Yes.
and
It kind of is, and I think, for me, it's a little bit different, just because like I feel like in a lot of ways my music would fit more on a playlist with the Residents than something that would be on a Taylor Swift playlist or even a Sarah Morris playlist.
right.
So for me, having a service that like is willing to like put on songs that are just like, okay, I just wanted to make something pretty, but also like something where it's just like akin to like you know, like going into Sun Ra territory where it's just like, hey, this might sound pretty rough, you know, like on purpose. Like this is like, it's like, so like the fact that you're on those services, it becomes kind of like a Google search for like
Yeah.
really weird stuff. But for in the grand scheme of things, no, I don't think I've been streamed more, because like even on my least streamed services, you can kind of see that like if you took Spotify away, um, like that song also has like 1,000 or so streams on YouTube or something. You know,
Right.
so it's like it's not like, oh god, I need those plays. Like it's kind of like in that weird thing where it's just like, I feel like I'm lucky enough to have a small but mighty cult that is going to find ways of getting me, whether I'm in a store or not. That being said, how do you amass that cult? Is it because
Right.
of the mechanism? I don't know, because I'm not really playlisted on a lot of things. But having it on
Right.
available on so many things, I definitely think has helped more people come to the gigs. But it is not made
I
me more
agree.
money, or it's not given me more exposure. I would say it's given me exposure, but like,
Yeah.
would it have made or break my career? No, because I don't think, you know, like, what does that even mean? You know,
Right. No,
I
I
don't
know.
like. I think it's made a difference, but like, to me, it's. I feel like I would have been in this position with or without it, you know. So like, but I have met artists that like they got playlisted, their track
Right.
went to millions, and it
Right.
has done
Which is
something for them. But here's the
right.
thing, it's done everything for them but pay them.
Exactly. Exactly. It's so
That's
weird.
where I'm at with it.
It's so
I'm glad it exists, but the fact that it does exist, and the fact that an owner is in a position to say the artists are entitled, I feel like that means the system's out of whack.
yeah, I agree.
Like you shouldn't even be in a position to say like like that just seems like a weird, creepy, like I feel like people don't give the billionaires enough credit for being cartoon supervillains, because they're so cartoony. Like they're so absurdly, like some of them even have mustaches. Most of them are bald. Like it's absurd that people are like, look, they're not supervillains, okay? They're just good at business. I'm just like, no, they are like they're like acting like cartoon characters. It
They
really
are.
is this absurd, like that. Like it's not all the streaming services are like that, but Spotify in particular like is kind of making a point off of like, oh yeah, more people listen to us than any other streaming services. It's like, so you're saying you have the money to do it? No, absolutely not. They're like, then
Right.
why did you say that other thing? We're like, because it just simply can't be done. They're like, well, why can't it be done? And your answer is essentially because artists are entitled. It's just like, that's ridiculous. Like I understand that Spotify is probably not going to change the royalty rate, but like they could,
They
and they'd
could.
be fine.
Oh, they
They wouldn't
could
go away.
in a second. They could. They could.
Um, Yeah, geez. See, like a few of these shows have been taken off Facebook, and it's because like I'm starting to like say opinions about like bigger
Really?
organizations than KFAI. So now I'm just like, I don't know. It also just could be the fact that Facebook kind of is weird now,
Yep, I agree.
and I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so we have after this song, the next song is a little bit long, but that was like the local music segment. We played your track, Sarah's, Preston's, Keep for Cheap, and then we're gonna play the rest of the playlist is kind of like stuff I think would kind of work with the Desert Island, but this will be like the last track that actually was on the Desert Island list. But I don't know how much time you have, because like this is kind of one of those shows where I'm just like, I never expect anyone to stay the whole 2 hours. It just kind of happens.
Yeah. Well, I'm great. My kiddos
You're doing good?
downstairs,
Okay, cool.
like
If
activity.
there's anything that comes up, let me know. Otherwise, like once noon happens, I do have to like get going just because
Yeah.
Democracy Now! Is after my show. So like, probably will have to make a quick transition to that. But like, I can kind of talk for a long time. So
I
like, if
love
you're in
I
a
haven't gotten a chance to hang out with you, and so
It's good. It's
I'm
fun. It's fun. So I appreciate you spending the time, just because like I kind of these things kind of kept me sane in a weird way. Um, just being able to kind of like talk with people, like actually, but like not in a way where it's like we're just pretending to I don't know, it's been fun having the show because you get to like actually interact with people and talk about
yeah,
things that are not just the weather.
right. I'm not
But
a
I
fan
think
of small talk.
I think
I
the
don't do well
pandemic
with it.
taught me like I don't mind talking about the weather too much, like it's like there are little things you miss, and then I don't know, so it's been all about perspective.
Yeah.
So now that we've gotten the like the stuff about like actually talking about the musical product out of the way, is there anything you would like to talk about on the air? Because we're coming up to a talk break, and I can pretty much just like work that into the conversation. Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep steering it where it goes.
I yeah, I mean I think, the Hook show is big. But other than that,
Sure. Okay, so you
yeah.
mentioned New York City. Did you grow up there, or did
I
you
did not
move there for
I
music?
moved there. So I grew up in northwestern Minnesota, and then I came down here to the U of
Okay.
M, and got my degree in vocal performance, in music. And then I was a dancer growing up as well, so I transitioned into. I was lucky to work professionally in musical theater. I worked at the Ordway. It was a company
Ah.
at Chanhassen Dinner Theater for about 3-4 years,
Okay.
and then I finished my last show at Chan, which was Cats. And my mom was a designer, and I grew up like in her factory in northwestern Minnesota, and she sold to all the majors and would bring me to market to New York City. And so I had always had in the back of my mind, like, I need to move here someday. So I finished Cats. I broke up with my college boyfriend. I was like, it's now or never. So I packed a suitcase. I found a roommate on roommates.com, and I moved. So yeah, and I
So
was there
when
for about
you
10.
were in New York City, were you primarily doing musical theater, or were you doing other stuff on the side?
I started auditioning when I first moved, but I had started writing while I was working at Chan, and recording, and I started auditioning and then realized the universe kind of led me in all these little different pathways to open up some things for me, and I started really focusing on my music then, and recorded an EP, and then I ended up getting. I was very fortunate to get hooked up with. I took a lyric writing class at the New School, and my lyric professor said, "You need to call this person at the Songwriters Hall of Fame. They do new writer stuff." So I got into a new writer showcase with my friend Rachel
Wow.
Platten. Stephanie Germanotta, who is now Lady Gaga, was in that, and so was Lizzie Grant, who now goes by Lana Del Rey. So there's this big group of all of us that um, performed together, and things were happening for everybody in their own way. And that opened up a lot of doors for me for booking. And so Rockwood Music Hall, before, they have 3 stages now, which is amazing because Ken
So
is
you got
wonderful.
to see Rockford before it became like, because
I used to play
I
Rockwood.
remember when I lived on when I like Rockford Music Hall. I feel like, did it just start as like they had the big room and then the little room?
Rockwood had the one room, the one little room. And then when I first started playing, it was just the one little room. And then Ken Rockwood,
Okay.
who owns it, would do the sound up in the little like birdie perch thing. And it was amazing. It was just a great, great venue. And then they just started expanding. Tommy Merrill was
Okay.
doing then, and they're such lovely people. I'm so glad that they've been able to stay afloat through the pandemic, and that they're doing as well as they are.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my home. And then um, yeah, and then I just, I realized after working in theater for so long, I loved it, but I really wanted to find my voice and sing about the things that were from,
Sure.
in my heart.
Sure.
So
Do you
that's
mind if
where.
we keep talking about this on the air? Because this
Oh,
track is about to. Okay, hold on, hold on. I'm going to do that thing. So that was Keep for Cheap. We also had Preston Gunderson, track called Permanent, and Under the Moon by Annie Fitzgerald. So we were talking about basically your background. So you grew up in Northwest Minnesota, but moved to New York for musical theater, and you were getting work out there. And so when you were with that, and then you focus moving on to the songwriting stuff. Let's talk about that collective you were in. Did you get a chance
yeah.
to actually perform with Lady Gaga and Lana Del Rey before they were, you know, changing into that aesthetic, or
Yes.
were they had already moved on? So you got a
No,
chance to like work.
yeah, my friend Rachel Platten, who I ended up doing some touring with, she wrote the big song Fight Song. She was in that. It was a Songwriters Hall of Fame New Writers Showcase. So Rachel was in it.
Yeah,
Lizzie Grant, who goes by Lana Del Rey, was in it, and
yeah,
then Stephanie Germanotta, who is now Lady Gaga, was in that, and she was Stephanie Germanotta at the time. But
yeah.
shortly after that showcase, there were a lot of industry people there. She teamed up with a producer and became Gaga maybe like 6 months later. And then I remember a couple months after
Wow.
that, I was at the gym and I was like watching Ellen, and I was like, there she is in like a really weird
Whoa.
dress. And I remember having feelings around like how, what her, her first, because I saw the things that we're all seeing now with her and the piano and like her voice and all of the like, soul and amazingness.
Yeah.
And I'm just really glad to see her doing all of that now. And I'm just so excited for her and all of them. It's just been super fun to watch, everybody doing their thing
It's
and where it's led them. So
crazy watching that timing too,
yeah,
because I
yeah.
I had a friend who was caught up in that with Lana Del Rey too.
Oh,
We would just hang out in his music store, but he was
mm,
already living in the Twin Cities at the time, and he was just kind of like, "Oh yeah, who's my friend Lizzie? You should it's her stuff." And he put on Video Game,
yeah,
and then that song like blew up, like it's just like Lana Del
yeah,
Rey. And I was just like,
yeah,
that's not your friend. He's like, no,
yeah,
it's my friend. It's just like, it's some girl named Lana. It's like, no, it's my friend. Like she's working with like an agency, and she's like doing a thing. I swear,
yeah.
like they just changed her name. Like, and it just
Yeah,
like, it just
yeah,
took off.
yeah. She and
Um,
I got to be in a writing workshop, like month. I think it was like 3 or 4 month long workshop with her, and hear like a lot of her new things before. That was fun too. I don't know. It's
yeah.
just really cool. It's wild to see it all happen and
So what
all of
brought
it.
you back so you were on the East Coast watching
Yep.
this, working with these people, developing your own sound, developing and realizing. So was this what made you realize, oh, I should pivot away from musical theater? Because you also said you worked at Chanhassen, which is like that's great work if you can get it, like they
Yeah, it
do
was.
good work there.
Yeah, it was amazing that I just got to see a bunch of my Chan fam that I haven't seen in a long time a few weeks ago. It led my
Sure.
heart in very big ways. I loved working in theater. I just felt after a while like, had been singing. I went to the University of Minnesota and I got my degree in vocal performance. So I was singing lots of French art song and opera and things. And then I, found my voice in musical theater, and I just really felt like I
Yeah.
wanted to find my voice. So, and sing the things that were from my heart. So I started focusing on, on my own music. And I moved back because I wanted to be closer to family eventually. I knew I didn't want to be
Sure.
out in New York
Sure.
City forever. And that energy is a lot
It
for
is a
me,
lot. Yeah.
for a lot of
Yeah.
people, but it was a lot for me to kind of handle. handle. So I'm so grateful to be back and to be a part of the Minneapolis music scene is such a gift. I love it. Love it here. Love working here. Love all the people, and I'm grateful. So, yeah.
Well, we love having you here. We have some more of your mixtape coming up, but first we're going to hear from our friends at...
Thanks for listening to KFAI.
I did the underwriting right this time.
Amazing.
Okay, so we have a few of these. We have 4 of these coming up here, and then we're gonna get back to the mixtape. So I got CCR. I think that's the last one on your list.
Awesome.
Your donation helps KFAI.
I had to bring that one into it.
Well, right. I feel like they're one of those artists that, like,
is a non-jury self-guided tour of a diaspora.
I think they're up there with like the Temptations, or like just one of those artists where it's like you can just include the greatest hits. Like it's like because it gets to a point where it's just like, well, which one do I choose?
I know.
And they were so consistent too.
Yep.
Like AC/DC is another one of those. It's like you can put the greatest hits. Like it's like if you listen to new AC/DC, it's just like, yep, sounds like 1980s AC/DC. Like it's just, and CCR is one of those, like I in my lessons, like I would teach a few of their songs just because, like, one, they're easy songs to like get going, but like they're the perfect to like teach what a groove is, because it's like it's one thing to just change between a few chords, like to actually like listen to them where it's just like, yeah, they're just locked into this simple thing, and then you learn how to like kind of write a song from there where it's just like it's not just getting into the groove, it's just like, okay, like, yeah, like their songs only have 3 chords, but like what did they do with that? Like what are they doing with that? And like they write airtight hooks. So I had a hard time choosing what song to pick, so I kind of went overboard and just did one of their like extra long versions off of that tape. So we're doing Heard It Through the Grapevine.
I love it.
Because that's another thing I like doing on this show, is playing really, really, really long songs. Oh no, did I mess up the... I think I did. I think I messed up the underwriting. Oh no.
I have a lawnmower outside my window right now. Sorry.
Well, I do it fairly often, unfortunately. Oh, okay, never mind.
It's not a lawnmower. It's a blower.
Oh, I actually can't. I can't hear that on my end, so you're good. You're good. I was like the. So you can't see what I am seeing. I wish I could take the camera. I guess I could, but there's like 4 screens in front of me. So one has you, and then the other has just various other things on the Discord, which is like why I'm terrible at keeping up with it, because like on days like this where I'm already concerned about breaking something anyway, because people will like communicate on the Discord, and sometimes like I don't chat. Most of the time I don't chat back. I will like look at it and acknowledge, but sometimes people don't like send messages. Like today I feel like, or if they do, it's like on the, yeah, it's on like the Facebook page, and you know, like that's like the thing. Yeah, like they'll comment there, and then I don't. Sorry, I was trying to like find the Facebook page, and then I was worried like if I clicked on it, it would create like a infinite feedback loop situation where it's just like, so it's like where I don't see it until then, And then it's just like, yeah. So I'm really bad at that. But then the last screen is, it has the underwriting, and every once in a while, someone else will drive it. So like it'll just start doing things. And it's usually when I mess it up where it's just like, are they gonna, okay, so now we're just gonna play this at 11:48
so
now. And so that's usually what happens, is like the robot is like, but it wasn't doing that. It was setting something up for this afternoon, because I definitely was late on the underwriting in the first hour. So I was just like, oh no, did I mess it up again? The answer is probably yes, actually, but being real, it's just like that's just kind of what happens, and I hope I don't create too much like rubble in my wake. That's, yeah, I don't know.
I'm in awe of all the you're doing right now. I have no idea. It would make me.
Well, it's I kind of like it. It's like that's like something I didn't realize was a problem until the pandemic, was adult ADD. Had it when I was a kid, but like, I don't know, like it's like when you grow up and go to college, like you get that thing where like you think you know everything. And I think I was just like in that space where I was just like, oh, that isn't real. Like I was just a kid with anxiety and depression, and like dealing with like that system is just going to be like, oh no, like it took like the pandemic to make me realize like, oh yeah, ADD is very real. Like it got to a point where like when you're so understimulated, even watching a movie is just like, I get halfway through and it's like, all right, let's do something else. Like what? We're like, it's like, I don't know. This is doing nothing for me. They're like, what? Like we're, like I didn't realize. So like, I kind of like it because like when there is a lot going on, it's almost kind of calming. But if I do too much of that, like the wheels just come off.
I'm very much wondering if I don't have the same stuff at listening to you talk about it.
It wouldn't surprise me, because it does affect creative people. In fact, like I think like it's kind of like driving a stick shift. Like I think certain creative people, like like drummers make good helicopter and airline pilots apparently, because they're already used to just doing things.
Doing all the things.
So usually interdisciplinary artists, like who either do one thing or the other, like they paint and sketch, but also they play an instrument, or they dance and act, but also play an instrument. It's quite common in people like that, just because it's like, I don't know, like it's just the way your brain compartmentalizes when you have ADD, I guess. So like it can skip around a lot, but like I've definitely noticed the negative effects more because of the pandemic, of just like, oh yeah, okay, I guess this helps me creatively, but like it can be like, it's a real thing that like I would not want to date someone like I get it. Like it's a handful. Because like sometimes like you will talk to me and they're like, I just said that, or like we're like, it's just like, wait, I forgot where the directions were. It's like, I just told you where it was like 3 times. It's like sometimes that will happen, and then like
so people will say that to you.
Yeah, like they'll just be like, and then I'll just be like, I'm
a repeater. I repeat
things. It's really
things.
weird. It's like I've just noticed. I think when I was younger, I was good at being able to juggle more, but now that I'm older, I'm noticing the gaps of just like, oh, this didn't used to happen. And it's just like, well, wait, why can't I just remember that? And there's just some weird things that I've noticed. When you're like understimulated, your brain will almost like work harder to overcompensate, and then it's just like you're exhausted even though you've done nothing all day.
Do you meditate, Doc?
Yeah, I don't know, but I've It's a thing. I
Yeah.
used to think it's like, oh, that's not real. It's like, no, it's very real.
It's a thing.
It's yeah, it's definitely like a um I guess I just didn't expect it to be as noticeable. Where like before I'm just like, oh yeah, that like really, it's not like I'm taking standardized tests, you know, like why would I have to worry about like that? It's like it's mainly like little things where it's just like, why do I always forget that thing at the grocery store? Or like yeah, like it's just like I went out of my way to make sure I got the thing, and then like I didn't get the thing.
I do that.
Or you get so hyper fixated on that thing that you're like going to like 5 different branches to get like this very specific form of olive oil, and then you forget everything else. And because you're so hyper fixated on that one thing, it's like I'm usually that person where it's just
Guilty.
like I get the job done, but I didn't realize like how much wasted energy I was just by going like, no, we got to get the thing. We got to get the thing. We got to make sure we get the thing. And we got the thing. So I think I was so used to like being able to get all the other things done. But this time around, I get so fixated on like, oh, this is the hardest thing I have to do. As long as I stay on task on this, I will get it done. That I'm starting to drop the balls that I used to be able to catch when I was juggling. And now it's just like, wait, how did I forget that thing? Like I was so good at getting all the other complicated stuff. It is just like, it's like, I don't really know how to explain it. Other than that, it usually is just like manifesting itself like, oh, I'm going to brush my teeth and then start doing this other thing. You know, like that's how it used to be, where it's just like, oh no, that's just like a quirky thing that I do. Oh, ADD. It's just like now I've noticed it's like, oh yeah, no, this definitely is annoying. Like really, really, really annoying to the point where like I could see like how it would affect other people in my life, where it's just like, if you don't have patience for it, it's
right.
like, or if you don't understand it, like why, I could see it like coming off as like really rude, of just like, why did they just walk away? And they're like, you know, like, or like something like that. It's just like, or like I have that thing where like I'm already at the end of the thought, so I like am speaking the broken zigzags, but not giving any context of the thought bridges that allowed me to get there. So it's just like, that's what falls out of my mouth. And then like, it's harder for me to explain how I got there than it is to just change the subject. So there's like a lot of like that stuff where it's just like, what? Wait, what are you talking about? Or like, nothing. Moving on. They're like, no, we're not moving on. What about like how did we get on Cheese Whiz? I'm really curious. Like that. So it's like that's like, but like explaining how we got on Cheese Whiz like is like will take more time than it'd just be like, don't worry about it. Like it's really not important. It's like the equivalent of like saying a road sign, like just saying what's on a billboard. Like it's I'm not adding anything to the conversation. I'm just like seeing something. And then sometimes people in my life will be like I uttered something important. They're like, wait, what was that? Like, I was just like, don't worry about it. They're like, no, like you can tell me. I'm like, no, it was literally just like a
blip, a thing.
I don't know. Like, it's like, it literally wasn't important. That's what I've definitely been noticing with it. And for a while, and I'm still kind of doing this, like I'm performing without my glasses on because I can, I've noticed if I can't focus on stuff, it's easier for me to focus on the stuff. So if I have less things to like kind of like, because it is kind of inevitable that like you get into a groove again. But I've noticed like I start drifting off and relying on muscle memory, and then I'm like, wait, what am I'm supposed to be doing the thing? That's where I've noticed it. Like, that's where I've noticed it the most. But I think it's helped me be more patient with social situations because I feel like I'm just assuming we're all nuts now.
Right. Well, we kind of are. in a way, we kind of are. I mean, if we're being real.
Well, I mean, I think most of us are going to be nuts in a good way. Like, I don't think we're going to come out of it like not that America wasn't already. Let's be honest, though. Like
True.
America was already like having like a mass shooting like once a week, you know. So it's just like I feel like we are just like, why wouldn't we be nuts? I guess. There's
sure,
like so many reasons for us to be nuts, and
I think the pandemic, like, it shut everything down in a way, so that we were able to, and it didn't really have a choice but to focus on some of the things that needed our attention. You know,
right, and
whether it be music or social injustice or all of the things, politics. I mean, there are so many things. So in that sense, I think that like it feels like there was like a necessity to some of it, or at least a gift there, even if it was an uncomfortable one.
yeah. Well, and learning hurts too. Like that's because
growth.
Like you have to learn. Oh, that doesn't work, by things kind of really not working, like for a while, until that like spills over or just breaks or something.
Call it growing for a reason, right? Like growth, comfortable.
Yeah, and
but necessary. And if we don't do it, then why are we here?
Right. I think that's what worries me now, is like, if anything, we're just like chasing the dollar signs while it's like available, and then just kind of like, well, okay, we did that, I guess that happened. And then like, because like I definitely have gotten into that like phase of where it's just like, oh, we haven't learned anything, we like nothing's really changed, and we're just gonna kind of like go headlong into the next like thing. And I still believe that, but like there's like a weird zen in just accepting like, oh, like there's like, not to sound like doom and gloom, but it's like, oh, this is kind of hopeless to it. It's just like like yeah, it was like that that Ram Dass thing where it's just like talking to his dead friend, or like using a medium to talk to his dead friend, and like it's just like, don't worry, death is totally safe. Like like that was the response he got via the medium, and it's just like, that's kind of how I feel about this, which is like, no, don't get me wrong, you're supposed to like fight the good fight, and soldier on and try to make your corner of the thing like a little bit brighter and better, but you also have to understand like you are never going to see it in your lifetime. Certain things will come to fruition that previous yous will wish to have seen, but like, so like there is like that weird thing of just like, oh yeah, I mean, yeah, we didn't learn anything, but we needed to learn that we're going to need to learn that we need to learn, I guess. Because it's like, it's not going to go away. The lesson is just going to keep appearing until something changes. And I think we just think that like, okay, now that that's over, it's just like, no, it's not. It's just going to keep happening and happening and happening and happening and happening and happening and happening.
I just keep thinking about my kiddo. That's where my brain always goes to.
Yeah, I can imagine
about what it's going to be, and doing all that I can to teach him how to be kind and considerate and open and accepting and loving and all the things. And that's really, I mean, between that and then the things that I try to do to help, that's all I can do. It's all we can do.
Yeah, it's
and
kind of
we're
yeah, you can only just be the thing you wish you had, if that makes sense. Like just kind of like be like, ah, well, like you know, like it I don't know, like it's just like, oh, like if I was that crying child or whatever, like what did I need back then? And a lot of times it's just like, oh, I just wish I had like an adult saying this to me. And like sometimes like when I'm teaching lessons, like I feel like it's like almost just like we're not like there to like work on guitar, but like be the one adult that just like says like, yeah, it's totally okay to cry. Like you're under a lot of pressure. Like it's just like the one person in their life that they can actually like have a real conversation with.
I can just see you
I
being
think like that is just as important as I don't know, because like I like the older I get, the more I see myself in other people that I had along my, where I'm like, oh, whoa, I'm becoming that. And realizing that none of us know what we're doing. Like even our elders, so just is gonna make this point weirder, but like we need to respect our elders for making that far because they know a thing or two, but they're basically just us who have made it that far. They're doing their best, and like you know, like you're never done, so like you kind of have to do your best to stay with it. But like I think like that works both ways. Like we need to understand like, oh yeah, like you still feel the way you did when you were like a teenager. You just don't feel the way your body was when it was a teenager. But mentally, like most people I've met, like don't progress past 17. Like a lot of people still think they're like 23 up here because you feel like you're still 23 up here. Nothing has changed except like now your back hurts when you get out of bed now. So it's just like just there is. So sometimes fighting the good fight is just kind of like understanding that we're all going through like the same thing, but like, yeah, I don't know. It's, I don't want to say it's like totally hopeless, and maybe it's just because like Mazzy Star is playing, so it's just like no, let's like it's not hopeless, but like there is like a little bit of wistful melancholy of just like it's definitely not going to be the same, that's for sure, but it's not completely hopeless. But okay, speaking of this Mazzy Star song, because I like playing long songs on the radio, I didn't realize that because of me trying to get the robot that runs the Restream service, the clocks are off, is 4 minutes till noon.
Okay.
So when this song is over, let's just do the wrap up, and we'll go on the air and just like just kind of who, the what, the where, and the why, just because we can, and we have some station changeover at the top of the hour, like new listeners come in. So this song has about 90 seconds left.
Is it Fade In you're playing?
Yeah.
I love that song.
I try to keep the volume low, because that's another thing that gets kicked off of our social media, is like if our social media can hear us play a song, which I don't get, because it's just like, yeah, but you know we're a radio station, like we pay the license fees to use this, like why does it matter?
If it's
I don't know. I think they know how buggy the algorithm is. They just don't care. Like that goes with YouTube too. Like they know it doesn't actually work, but like nothing bad happens to them. So
right.
why would they stop doing it? And they're not. They like people are still getting pulled for like weird reasons. Like There was like a guitar teacher channel that I follow talking about like I've changed the way I make videos because if I play like I can't play the source material, like I have to play a part of the thing, and even then I can't play too much of the thing because the algorithm will recognize me playing a line from this Eagles song, and it like comes after you and tries to demonetize you. So it's like super weird. Okay, so this is the last 10 seconds. Stand by and then we'll be on the air here. Mazzy, Star, Fade Into You, Jump Into the Fire by Harry Nielsen and CCR, I Heard It Through the Grapevine. This is Patti Smith covering When Doves Cry. And if you're just tuning in, this is Desert Islands, the show where I make mixtapes based on my guests' 10 records they bring to a desert island. Today I made one for Annie Fitzgerald, who's with us right now. Annie, thank you so much for being on the show today. This was a lot of fun. If folks like what they heard, where can they hear it again? Where's the best place they can check out your recorded music and your performances coming up?
Yeah, thank you so much, Doc, for having me and for all that you do for Minnesota music. It's a gift.
Oh.
You can find all the things on AnnieFitzgerald.com. I've got a show coming up on Friday, Pop at 50th in France in Edina, and then a big show, double bill, full bands, full hearts, can't lose with Sarah Morris at the Hook at our theater on on Thursday, August 5th. So hopefully we're going to bring all the joy, even when we're singing sad songs, because I haven't played with my band in forever. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's going to be amazing. August 5th at the Hook and Ladder, and this Friday at 50th in France. We also heard your new single at the top of the hour, so you can get Under the Moon out on streaming services and at Annie's website. Annie, thank you so much for coming on the show. Stay tuned for Democracy Now! Next week, I'm going to be talking with 26 Bats. See you then.
Thank you so much, Doc.
All right. Thank you so much. I am going to, this is where I'm going to do the fade out because I got to get the show on. This was so fun. Thank you for putting up with the technical difficulties, and have fun at those shows. They're going to be great.
Thank you. I hope to see you
hope to see you in person.
In real life. Me too.
Yeah, in real life. Like imagine that.
Real life. I know.
Well, okay. All right. I'm going to sign